April 17th, 12:41 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Ah, Gina. How are you holding up? I'm starting to feel quite warmly towards her frequent cold shoulders now. Ginny! Are you alright? Why aren't you saying anything? What's the point, eh? I gathered all this trouble and fight so hard for the likes of me. What? Well, you saw it. That picture. What picture? Ah, you mean this? The photograph taken by Early's red-handed recorder? Well, I didn't think you would have captured a scene like this, that's for sure. It's hopeless. Anyone who sees that's gonna think I did it, ain't they? Oh, anyone who sees will think I did it, innit? Well, I won't pretend it wasn't a bit of a shock when the prosecution first presented it to the court. Surely you've got to have your doubts about me now. You can't still think I'm innocent. Of course I can. Ginny, why don't you talk to us? Tell us what really happened that night. Bruno's cleverly managed to piece together a lot of new information, but still, we'd really like to hear it from you. Alright then. Alright then. It was after we had that dinner together at your place, right, Iris? Then we all had a chat up in your office, didn't we? Yeah, I remember. After that, I just couldn't get to sleep, so I slipped up and went down the street to the one-to-one to Windybank's place. I had to know if Iris' story was there or not. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I don't know what it's about or nothing, but if you ask me, there's something in it that Sholmes don't lie. Something what we don't want people reading. So that's why he lied to Iris about sticking it in lug with Windybank for safekeeping. At least that's what I thought at the time. So you broke into Windybank's? I just had to know if it was there or not. I mean, I had no idea all that was going to kick off, did I? I struck the lock and snuck inside. It was dark as you like in there, so I gave the old lamp on the counter a bit of wick, and that's when... What do you think you're doing? I nearly died, I did. Next thing I knew... Oh, it's gonna be Benedict, maybe? Oh. I grabbed the gun off the counter and was waving it in the air like, I don't know what. That's inconvenient. You girl who was in there this afternoon. I don't think pickpockets went in for armed robbery. The metal script. Have you got it here? Did Chums leave a lot of papers with you? A story? I beg your pardon? They're under something or other. If it's here, I want to see it. I'm sorry, young lady, but I'd sooner die than relinquish an article belonging to one of my customers. I don't want it. What would I do with it anyway? I just want to see it's here, that's all. Oh, you want to see it, dear? I want to know if Shums really pawned it here or not. Please, just let me see it, and I'll go. Oh, alright then. But for pity's sake, stop waving my gun around, would ya? So then the old Calvin unlocked the storeroom door, and we both went inside. And it was there, alright, the metal script. Shelms weren't lying after all. You did all that just to check for me, Ginny? Anyway, then there was a bit of a kick-up out in the main bit of shop. The Skulkin brothers arriving on the scene, yeah. What was that noise? Someone's breaking in. Dear me, is there some burglars convention here tonight that I don't know about? I think I forgot to shut the door behind me. Sorry. I'll better go and take care of it. Could I possibly have me gun back? Oh well, I'll come with you and... Now don't be foolish, young girl. You must stay right here. Don't leave this room under any circumstances. And with that, he took the gun out of my hands and walked back into the shop. I went back in the storeroom like he said, straining my ears in the dark to hear what was going on. It sounded like they got into a bit of a scrap. I started to think I should help, see? So I was just about to go out the storeroom myself when... I heard a couple of shots go off. 2, I think. Almost at the same time. And then there it was. Right at my feet. Lying face down on the floor. I was right next to the storeroom door, so I slammed it shut and locked it quick as I like. Quick as you like. Because you thought whoever had shot Mr. Wendyback might come for you? Yeah. So I went to grab the old cove's gun. I figured I'd put up a fight at least. But when I got a better look at him, I knew. Wendyback was a goner. I felt funny in my head all of a sudden, kinda dizzy. And after that, I don't remember nothing. That must be when you passed out, Gina. If I hadn't done what I done, the old cove might still be alive. Did you tell the police everything you just told us? Of course I did, but they didn't believe a word of it, did they? All they said was if I kept telling lies, it'd make things even worse for me. It'll be alright, Jenny, don't worry. Just stay strong a little longer. Runo's about to put the real culprit through the mill. That cove what was there in the afternoon? That agate Benedict? I still remember how he looked at me, like I was nothing. He was there that night. We don't know his real name yet, but I'm convinced that he is involved somehow. Anyway, thank you for telling us what happened, Gina. I appreciate your honesty. You what? You can leave it all in Runo's capable hands now, Jenny. Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah? How come you trust me? I don't get it. I mean, have you forgotten what happened here before? Come on. It was only 2 months ago. Me and McGilded, we told you a whole pack of lies. And you got the bog troll off with him, even though he was a killer. No, I can never forget that. Oh, I did what I thought was best at the time, but the pain of that error of judgment doesn't get any easier to bear. Still, don't forget that I also made you a promise. I told you that I'd be on your side to the bitter end, no matter what. But what if I'm lying? You could be waiting to get another kill off the hook for all you know. I was once in your position, Gina. I was the accused in a trial. You were? Before I left Japan, I was accused of murder. And strange as it might sound, the circumstances of the crime were pretty damning. I was sure that no one would believe it wasn't me who'd done it. Oh, Runo. But there was one person who stood up for me, who believed in me, and was prepared to defend me. My best friend. Ryunosuke, no one believes in you more than I do. Leave this to me. All you need to do is put your faith in me, and I'll do the rest. I was so happy I cried. But even then, somewhere inside me, I couldn't help thinking, surely he doesn't really believe in me. Not completely. But I was wrong. As soon as my trial began, it was obvious that he had an absolute unwavering belief in me. And in turn, I developed an absolute unwavering belief in him. Since then, I came to realize, if you want someone to believe in you, you have to believe in the other person first. What are you saying? I promise you, Gina, that no matter what happens, I'll keep believing in you. So you don't need to worry. I won't let you down. Even though I'm a diver and a no-good lawyer. You're not like McGilded. I know that. That's right. You're our friend, Ginny. Iris. We know you better than you think. And we've come to the conclusion that you're someone we can trust. Yeah. That's really all we need to know. Exactly. But Mr. Naruhodo,
Thank you, the Starting League representative. Court procedure about to resume. Please enter the courtroom immediately.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I'd been both a defendant and a defending lawyer in my time, so I knew only too well just how hard it was to put all your faith in another. And I also knew just how hard it was to bear the burden of another, putting all their faith in you. This is it, at last. The final chapter, the final battle. Wish me luck, Susaru-san. And I hope you're watching over me too, partner. Alright then. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Zieks, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness?
The subpoena was delivered to the communication station, where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem.
I see. Then let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's précis of the case heard by the court this morning. The glaring omission of the third bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector.
I can only apologize, my lord.
And although the defense's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. It's a big mistake to cross early in me. A very big mistake.
My lord, the subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building.
Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. Mr. Eggert Benedict. I didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon, and certainly not like this. Thank you for complying with the court subpoena at such short notice, sir. But of course, my lord, as an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige. Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record. Graydon. Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer. Mr. Graydon and I both work at London Central Communications Station. Now perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about?
You were apprised of the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume.
Yes, I was. Something to do with the murder that took place at the pawnbroker's on Baker Street? And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question?
That is the accusation, indeed.
This really is beyond a joke, you know. Very well. Without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath. Ha! Ho! Ha! Gladly, my lord. Gladly. Oh, boy. Alright. What do you have to say for yourself? Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbrokering services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation. Even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene, some Scaramouche detective's home-brewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence.
So, you deny the accusation completely, do you?
I must say, I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy.
It was so will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will is upheld.
Then it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today.
By golly!
How long am I expected to be detained here?
If, following the defense's cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately.
Good. Then I should be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation at least.
Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination.
So, we meet again, Mr. Egbert Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon? My apologies. You are?
Renosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer.
We have met. If you say so. Ashley Graydon. Enchanté. So. Whew. I trust we can conclude this quickly. But I'm not holding your flashy hat while we do. Fuck. Just throw it back. No, throw it back. Why do you still have it? Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time. Yeah, we even met in the very pawnbrokery where the crime took place on the afternoon of the day in question.
Though, of course, you introduced yourself by a different name at the time.
It was Mr. Egbert Benedict, I believe. Tell me, what made you...
The witness is here to testify about events that took place that night. He is under no obligation to answer such unrelated questions.
You can't be serious. Thank you, because I certainly do not feel inclined to answer such an inappropriate question. So he's gonna be evasive, is he? In an effort to not give you anything away? This could be tricky. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place of the... But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder?
Hold it!
That is exactly what I'm suggesting. Have you seen these two men before? This pair? No, I don't associate with criminals. Said by a man who introduced himself as Egbert Benedict. I'd like to know who I have to thank for this. Who made this outlandish accusation against me?
The young lawyer there in the black.
This is a farce. Whose idea was it to permit an outsider to work in a British court anyway? Well, needless to say, I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation. Where were you at around 1 in the morning on the night in question, sir? That is past the hour at which I would normally retire. Certainly. I was not in the company of these rapscallions. You are able to prove that.
Objection!
What?
Listen carefully, my Leonard Nepalese friend, for you appear to be under a gross misapprehension on this point.
What do you mean?
The witness maintains that he was not at the scene of the crime. He has no obligation to prove his absence. If your accusation is that the witness was present at the scene, the obligation lies with you to prove your assertion. You will fulfill that obligation before putting any more unreasonable questions to the witness.
A silent victory, Wiggle. Thanks. Even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. But your blood was found at the scene. There's no question of that. Mr. Sholmes' chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such. But I'm not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be so sure that the blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these miscreants. Every individual's blood has a slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholmes' chemical is able to differentiate. Spare me the science lesson! Who is this Sholmes character, anyway? Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a renowned detective.
So even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective?
A great detective, you say? Now we're in the realm of fairy tales, are we? Oh?
Excuse me.
What do we have here? Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin?
Hey, what? Me?
No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you.
Right, I've had it up here with these. How many times have I got to tell ya?
Yes, I know. You're not Big Bro Skulky. Mr. Ness Skulkin. Hey, core blimey, Governor, you aren't. Is it not the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court? Hey, me thoughts? I don't have none of them. It must have been him.
You what?
Mr. Ness Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon just spoke? Nothing, honest Gov, nothing. I was just thinking, if he waves his arm around like that much more, it'll open up the wound again, that's all. What wound? Where he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, I was worrying for him. Oh, Wells Bills! Mr. Graydon, did you hear that? What? Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm. My lord. Yes, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. Certainly, I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations. We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir. The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand, as if in pain. No, I refuse. But you have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. What? Why not? As I've already said, I am completely uninvolved in all this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offense at this insinuation that I was in any way involved. You claim to have had nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Wendybank's pawnbrokery? My lord, the defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony. The defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony. Very well, counsel. Continue with the testimony, Mr. Graydon. The bottom line is, I've never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed.
Hold it!
Never had anything to do with it? You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I'm not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study. No, you were there to redeem an article. I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh?
Excuse me!
He was there. Do you have something to add, Inspector? Oi, come again, Sunshine. You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector? That afternoon?
Well, yeah, I do remember meeting yourself and the pawnbrokers this afternoon. Your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I recall.
And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article.
Well, now, I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly.
What? But you must.
I'm not gonna lie and pretend I remember something that I don't.
What's going on here? Gregsy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the cameras that early installed in the Windybanks. Yeah, of course. Indeed, and the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say. Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. But I merely entered the shop to peruse the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. This makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. But why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? That's all he's gonna say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Runa? I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away. The complete opposite of Early, then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better. Well, at least I managed to prize a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers. Yeah, they were the key to it after all. So he says he had nothing to do with Windybanks. Well, we know that's not true. Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record. Good idea. You never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon. Alright. Some Scaramouche detective's homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence.
Hold it!
Don't forget, sir, that Mr. Sherlock Holmes is the most famous detective in the world. And the most famous detective in the world tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Oh, well, oh no, I can't think how to answer that.
I once saw the world's most famous swindler thrown into jail.
He allegedly told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
What turned out to be a pack of lies.
What?
He allegedly told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but what turned out to be a pack of lies.
Oh. Quiet. Now, as you are no doubt aware, the Central Communication Station is the heart of this country's information network. My work there is of paramount importance, and you have kept me from it for long enough already. Alright. So we take this statement and then present the disc with his blood on it.
Objection!
Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? This disc was until the day of the murder in pawn in Mr. Windibank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try to take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course. Wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I have never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there's a small smear of blood on the disc. Oh yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps? That's right. The surface of the disc was covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in the form of the smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also, in the form of a scratch. Good gracious, indeed it must. Mr. Graydon? You refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with the smear of blood on the disc. But... Well. It would seem I underestimated you.
What is the meaning of this?
So you admit it now. You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempted to take the disc from the defendant?
Order! Well, Mr. Graydon?
It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I do not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple. You see, the disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item that you own out of pawn? What?
It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc, now.
As you wish. Though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. We'll be the judge of that. There's a note on the disc saying for McGilded, but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night.
Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say, the famous London philanthropist? Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder?
Yes, my lord. The one and the same. Good lord, Mr. Graydon, are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself were acquainted?
Yes, that's correct.
Order! Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again. According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Winterbanks. It's funny that Mr. Graydon here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it? In all likelihood, he's lying. So he appeared that afternoon at Winterbanks in order to get his hands on McGilded's disc for some reason. Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please. There's a note on the disc saying from McGilded, but the item belongs to me. Would you care to explain how this belongs to you? As you will observe, a communications officer such as myself commands a fine salary. You are certainly exquisitely dressed, sir. So you see, I have little need to make use of the services provided by the pawnbrokery trade. However, I did once find myself in difficulties having misplaced my purse whilst on an errand, which is why I pawned my fine black overcoat to the broker in question. You claim that was your overcoat? Obviously. In my haste, I clean forgot that the music box disc was in its pocket.
And yet, there's a note on it that reads, "For McGilded."
I am a collector of rare and unusual music box music. I first met Mr. McGilded at a gentleman's club in the city, and was interested to discover that he shared my penchant in that area. So, the disc in question, it's a pre-production sample. I promise to let Mr. McGilded hear it.
But then you forgot that it was in the pocket of the overcoat you were forced to pawn.
Yes, exactly. Gina didn't mention any of that in her testimony 2 months ago, did she? No, because Mr. McGilded had threatened her to keep her mouth shut. Which means that if we dig too deeply here, it's gonna expose Gina's perjury. Oh dear, this is complicated, isn't it? Let's leave it alone for the time being. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. So you're saying that Miss Lestrade lifted the ticket from your pocket or bag? That's right, despite being mindful of danger when walking in the insalubrious areas her kind frequent. Miss Lestrade did no such thing. Well, of course you would take that stance, but the girl is a regular offender. You came to the pawnbroker that day prepared with all the information you needed to identify the defendant. You were looking for her. That's what brought you to Winterbanks. To get your hands on Mr. McGilded's disc.
Objection!
My learned friend is a veritable font of nonsense.
Nonsense? I concur with the prosecution. Kenzo, you refrain from conjecturing in this way. Is that clear? Yes, my lord. Then I will continue with my testimony for what possible use it can be. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. Had you ever been to Winterbanks before? Only once, for the purposes of pawning something, but, like many, I enjoy browsing in such establishments.
So whether you noticed that the pickpocket had taken your ticket, you chased after her, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I didn't notice it at first, of course, such is the art of the pick purse. But when I did, I headed to the pawnbrokery at once, in order to reclaim my coat before the thief could. I was merely trying to recover what was rightfully mine in the first place. Or he can say what he likes because he knows we have no evidence to do all this.
In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police.
Hold it!
Then how do we have it right here? Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right. This was the very man. Apparently, the police are collecting anything that has a connection to Mr. McGilded as evidence.
Excuse me!
Is something wrong, Inspector?
Oh, well, what do you mean?
The last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way.
No, I didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone.
Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilded's possessions?
I can't tell you something like that, Sunshine.
What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets?
Yeah, exactly. You should know all about that.
Magnus McGilded, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man renowned throughout the capital for his great contributions to public life, yet he had a dark side too.
Where are you going with this, Fanzix?
I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they?
That's enough. Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know.
Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume?
The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's pulpit first.
What's all this about? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zeeks here.
Well, it would appear that the Inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony.
Gladly, my lord. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night.
Hold it!
But perhaps he'd seen something of value among the forfeited items? No, not at all. Oh.
A valuer was brought in by the police to assess everything in the shop. Without exception, every article on the shelves was common or garden bric-a-brac.
In that case, it's clear that you broke into the shop later that day in order to recover Mr. McGilded's disc. Have you not been listening, man? Even if I had wanted to recover the disc, you may recall that it had been seized by the police that afternoon. It was no more in the shop that night than I, as I keep saying, I simply had no reason to break in. So there was nothing in McGilded's left in the shop that night. Nothing this man might have been after? I wonder if that's really true. Runa, if you have some evidence, then let him have it. I'm dying to see that irritatingly shrewd expression of his crumble. McGilded slipped the disc into his coat pocket and had it deposited at Windybank's. Then, when he realized he was going to be arrested on the suspicion of the omnibus murder, he threatened Gina and forced her to take the redemption ticket. There's no doubt about it. That witness is lying through his pearly white teeth. The police were obviously after anything left behind by McGilded as well. That's why Inspector Gregson ended up taking the disc into custody that day. But Gregsy's been very strange about all this. There must be a reason for that, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. For now, I need to focus on exposing the fact that Mr. Graydon is lying in his testimony. Alright, let's see. Proof that he needed to go back in. Today's paper. Case summary. Manuscript. Gentleman's coat. And what's this? Yeah, the the small box. There we go. He was looking for the... He was not only looking for the disc, he was also looking for this. This disc was deposited at the Windy Banks on Magnus McGilded's instructions. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection!
Conjecture again, and in any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbroker again that night.
Objection!
Now who's conjecturing? Sorry, my learned friend, but that's not true.
What?
Mr. McGilded had another article in Pawn at Windybanks, as this second pawnbroker's ticket proves. There were two articles belonging to Mr. McGilded in Windybanks' pawnbrokery, and the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one, together with your two accomplices, the Skulkin brothers. This is the second ticket, is it?
What has the man deposited?
The article description reads, one small box. A rather vague description, it seems to me. Are you suggesting that I broke into the pawnbroker with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect that you did. This is absurd. Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would be absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point. Indeed. The witness makes a solid argument. So that means that for some reason, this Grayton fella needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
It's time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord.
Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Danzix?
I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from Windybank's pawnbrokery. And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it.
What?
Good gracious! Inspector, show the photographic print to the court if you please.
Yes, sir.
What prints?
These prints were taken from one of the detective's security cameras.
Ah, his red-handed recorders again.
As previously explained using this plan of the shop layout. The victim's establishment was furnished with automatic cameras in two locations. One was set to capture the counter where Mr. Windybank received his customers, and the other was set to capture the shelves on which articles were placed for sale once forfeited.
According to information on this ticket, the gilded small box had been forfeited already, 2 days before the incident at 9 PM on 13th of April to be precise, which means it would have been on the shelves of forfeited items in the shop front. Now what I have here is a print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's at 11 PM on 15th of April. The victim certainly had a very full shop, it would appear. And then here we have another print. This one was taken about 2 hours after the incident. I see, so we have two pictures to compare. Though I must say that placing them side by side leaves me cold. Dear me, that's starting to make my head ache. Obviously, at Scotland Yard we consider theft as soon as one possible motive in this case. We explored the possibility that something had been taken in addition to the victim's life. So your men have already compared these two prints thoroughly, Inspector? Yes, sir. We counted every single item in each of these two photographic prints. And the Yard's conclusion is that exactly the same number are present in both.
In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy.
Oh, I don't believe it. If I could have just shown that he'd stolen McGilded's pawn box, I might have been able to break him down at last. You know what, Reno? I've been thinking. I wonder if these two photographs really are exactly the same. What? So, counsel, in the light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that, in fact, on that question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? I don't know. Could there be some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Well, let's look at the pictures. From top right, we got there's little things on the top, 4 things. The boxes, the hat, the lamp, the thing, candle, yeah. They look identical to me. So what could be the discrepancy here? Can we get something out of that? I don't know. The floor plan? I don't know. Are we trying to say that at 2 a.m. we were there at the scene of the crime, so the camera would have taken a picture? No, he said that it was taken like a long time ago. What did he say? He said 2 hours after the incident. Okay, so yeah, it's a long time after. Return to question. I don't have an evidence to counter this, and I don't think I can point out a discrepancy. So maybe by saying that there's no discrepancy is the discrepancy, because they are both the same picture, identical. I don't know, that seems a stretch. Let's see what happens when we say this. However much I look at these two prints, I just can't see that anything went missing. Yes, my lord, I can see nothing wrong with the photographic evidence put forward. Very well. In that case, the matter is settled. Now, wait, Reno. There's something out of place with these two prints. I'm sure of it. Iris, what about that trick we just learned? We should use that now to really examine these two prints thoroughly. Alright, just uncross your eyes, please. Counsel, I've finally become accustomed to the wide-eyed stare that so frequently occupies your countenance. But that crossing of your eyes is another matter entirely. I'm afraid I must penalize you for it. Oh! This could be our chance to fight back. I suppose I should explore all avenues before I just accept the prosecution's position. Could there really be some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Fine. Point out a discrepancy. I wasn't sure at first, but There is a clear discrepancy between these two prints.
What?
You must identify the location in question for the court, Kazu. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy of which you speak. The time? The time, maybe.
Take that!
I don't know. Obviously, the discrepancy is here.
Objection!
I must thank my learned friend. His answer has clarified the situation greatly. There is indeed a discrepancy here between our respective powers of reasoning.
Let me guess. My powers of reasoning come up short? It would appear you are learning, Kazu, but not quickly enough. Oh, but I'm sure it's there. It's subtle, but there's a difference between these two prints. I know there is. Don't give up, Bruno. You can do this. So, Kazu, in the light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that, in fact, on the night in question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? I don't know. Could there be some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Piece of evidence. I've got a hunch. Before I give my answer, my lord, I'd like to try something, if I may. Try something? What do you mean, Kazu? I'll need to use a certain piece of evidence from the court record to identify the discrepancy. I'm not entirely sure I follow. Which piece of evidence do you intend to use to help you identify a discrepancy between the two prints?
Take that!
I'd like to use this device, my lord, to view the two prints stereoscopically. Ooh, yes, you've caught the bug at last. You can't resist it, can you? You've got the cross-eyed compulsion. Juror number 3, what a surprise. Come on, Runo. Let's put the pictures in place and see what this wonderful contraption shows us. Sure, why not? There we go. Now look through the eyepiece. Oh. I wasn't sure at first, but there is a clear discrepancy between these two prints. What? You must identify the location in question for the court, Kazu. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy of which you speak. I still don't know why that's a discrepancy, but sure. Here we go.
Take that!
Granted, these two prints are almost identical. However, there is one minor discrepancy between them. What? Oh, I think I know what's going on. Are they saying that before the crime this box was there, but then when the crime happened, this Graydon took the box, then after the investigation was over, or before 2 a.m., he put back the box, but he didn't put it exactly in the same position. He shifted it a little bit so the picture changes, showing that someone moved the box? Is that really where they're going? Let's see where they're going. When you view the two pictures stereoscopically, a single area stands out as being different: the location of the small box.
Let me wait. Unbelievable.
By Jove, you're right. How extraordinary. What this tells us is very simple. Mr. McGilded's small box was indeed not stolen from Windybanks on the night in question. However, there can be no doubt. Oh, someone picked it up, opened, took the contents and put it back. Just slightly shifted differently. Come on, man. Somebody picked up this particular box and then returned it to its place on the shelves. Are you suggesting that the small box originally deposited by McGilded is in fact... Yes, the very same small box I just identified in those photographic prints.
Objection!
Mindless guesswork. What it was? So a box was moved on the shelf. Nothing was stolen. Which means quite simply that nothing has changed.
That may be true, but... Alright, McGilded's box wasn't stolen then. But doesn't the fact that it was moved like that change things? Absolutely. I believe this changes everything about the case.
How can that possibly be?
The crucial point is the fact that the crucial point is the fact that what was moved was a small box. In other words, we have to consider what might have been inside that box.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that we need to examine that box as soon as possible. A vital piece of evidence is sitting on the shelves of Windybanks as we speak.
Objection!
That won't be necessary. Some little box belonging to a man who died 2 months ago can't possibly be relevant to this trial.
The court does not uphold your objection, Lord Van Zeeks. Bailiff, arrange for an officer to go to Baker Street at once. Obtain the small box in question and bring it back here for further examination. We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until the evidence is brought forth.
To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Disappointing.
I beg your pardon, Lord Van Zeeks.
This is nothing but a smokescreen. A new police specialty, it would seem.
What are you trying to say?
My learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning, that this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGilded from the pawnbrokery. Yet common sense tells us that none of the articles have value enough to be worth stealing in the first place.
Exactly. It would be beyond absurd to break into a place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property.
If your lordship recalls, Mr. McGilded perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of his trial. A trial in which he is found not guilty. A trial in which it was established he was the upstanding member of society his reputation implied, in fact. So I have proposed a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense.
The articles this upstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just happened to have a music box disc in one of its pockets, and a small box. I assure you, I wouldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such things to me.
You know, that does make rather a lot of sense.
You thought if this was gold or jewels, is it? Oh, goodness knows, because somebody else was rich enough.
But you can't deposit Coach Booker.
The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling.
It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its argument. To explain what possible significance these commonplace articles pawned by these fine citizens could have.
Well, counsel, is the argument in fact demonstrable? Are you able to show proof that the disc or the box are in any tangible way related to this case? Well, it's the thing we've been avoiding, isn't it? We're gonna have to we're gonna have to prove that Gina has committed perjury in order to prove that she's innocent of murder. What's the matter now? We know that they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence. Yeah, of course. You and I both know that. We know McGilded's true character, and we know that this is significant, even if we don't know why. But if we explain all that to the court at this point, we'll have to acknowledge that McGilded's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. That the defense's argument was flawed, based on false information. Oh no! And that would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury. But Ginny... Could it be that Van Zieks knows? Is that why he's doing this now? Because he anticipated everything? But maybe... this could be a great opportunity for us. Sorry, what do you mean, Iris? Well, what is it that you always say, Runa? Sooner or later the truth comes out. Every time. Alright, the exact significance of the things that McGilded deposited with Mr. Windybank is something that only Gina can explain to the court. But if I put her on the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. What's the right thing to do here? We can't leave it. If we leave it, she'll be guilty of murder. If we don't leave it, she'll be guilty of perjury. Which isn't punishable by death, I don't think. So, yeah. My lord, the defense would like to make a proposal. Oh, what proposal, Kazu? While the court awaits the arrival of Mr. McGilded's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand. The defendant? To what end? It's to do with the various articles deposited at Windybanks by Mr. McGilded, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear what she has to say. It will prove the significance of the articles in question once and for all.
Well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you've considered the implications of the testimony you're proposing. In particular, the impact it will have on the accused standing, and indeed, your own.
I have. Lord Van Zieks, would you care to explain that last remark?
The prosecution accepts the defense's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself.
Very well, if you have no objection. So, the court will now hear the testimony of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. You, witnesses currently in the stand, may step down until further notice. Then I shall bid you good day.
Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Mrs. Shaw testifies.
As you wish. Alright then, Gina. It's time. I know this will be hard, but please, put your faith in me here. Good luck, Runa. The articles that Mr. McGilded had deposited in Windybank's pawnbrokery are intimately related with the omnibus case, the trial of which was heard in this courtroom 2 months ago. Yes, and I remember that this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well. That's right, my lord. Her testimony helped to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGilded.
The omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we are all again, the same players in that trial facing each other once more. A twist of fate, perhaps, my Japanese friend.
Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged, that the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Mr. Strahd whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Mr. Strahd was concealed under a seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilded died in this very courtroom in the most extraordinary of circumstances.
A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months on. As indeed does the omnibus murder itself.
Be that as it may, I recall neither the disc nor this small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings.
Mr. Strahd, would you tell the court now, please? What really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago, I mean?
I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know.
And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Mr. Strahd, this is extremely important.
But...
Remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully withheld information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, let's face facts, you have little credibility to lose.
Jenny, don't listen to him. Please, you have to trust Runa now. Irish, we're on your side. Alright, Anne. I'll talk.
It's the right choice, Jenna.
Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it.
I must confess that I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. However, it would appear that Mr. McGilded's pawned articles in that extraordinary case of the omnibus harbor secrets of which have been hitherto unaware. So, Mrs. Strahd, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth, a commodity sorely lacking in your original statement.
This is it, then. Everything is gonna come out. Like Van Zeek said, this could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears. But as a lawyer, I am prepared to take that risk. Here we go.
Truth is, that bookmaker cove was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop round about. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard. Good grief, this is outrageous. What you've just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago.
As you say, my lord.
Then there's every chance that I may have agitated
in error in McGilded's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived his court, in an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes.
Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in that trial, of this witness, and of my learned friend are entirely inexcusable.
I don't believe it. The whole trial is a farce. It was all lies. McGilded fell right into the car, just like that pickpocket.
Don't forget the lawyers from the east. They were all in it together. You're wrong, lawyer. Mr. Naruhodo, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it.
Hamburg!
I didn't think so. Are we really expected to believe that?
He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation to get the man off scot-free.
Unforgivable. Stop. The lies have to stop. Stop.
Yes, the defense made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of Mr. McGilded's pawn articles must be brought to light.
Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of calamity you have just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing. Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, my lord?
I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial.
Of course, my lord.
Blimey, Mr. Naruhodo.
No, counsel.
Proceed with the cross-examination.